If you've seen my previous video, The Kaiser's Nazi Funeral, you'll know that I was recently granted private access to Emperor Wilhelm II's Dutch residence, Huis Doorn. After touring the house, I made a specific request to see any of the Kaiser's uniforms and medals still at the property, a request that was very kindly granted. Taken to a small room in the attic, part of the original servants' quarters, the room is lined with large wooden wardrobes or closets. The first one was opened and revealed a quite stupendous collection of uniforms and helmets that belonged to the Kaiser. Over the next few hours, more closets were kindly opened for me to reveal historical treasures I think must rank as the most important collection of German World War I militaria on Earth, all owned and used by the Kaiser, all of the highest quality and workmanship, and every piece with its own unique story. Sadly, this fantastic collection is not on public display, but I hope that this video will whet your appetite to view some more hidden treasures from Germany's last emperor in future videos. Due to the density of information and the number of objects viewed, I've decided to work my way today through some of the helmets and headgear only. Wilhelm II had some 300 uniforms, and a great many remain at Huis Doorn since his death in 1941. As Emperor of Germany and King of Prussia, he was a royal colonel of many German and other European regiments, as well as holding field marshals and grand admiral's rank in the German armed forces. I'm sure my viewers are aware that German Pickelhaube spiked helmets are incredibly collectible and, depending on unit, condition and so on, are very expensive items to collect. But these ones at Huis Doorn are, in my opinion, the best in the entire world, the creme de la creme of 19th and early 20th century German military headgear. This striking Pickelhaube is an officer's helmet of the 2nd Cuirassier Regiment Königin, Pommersches, named for the Kaiser's wife, Empress Augusta Victoria. She was a German princess from Schleswig-Holstein in northern Germany and married the Kaiser in 1881. Like her husband, she was also a relative of the Mother of Europe, Queen Victoria, her mother being a niece of the British Queen. She remained married to Wilhelm II until her early death at Huis Doorn in 1921, aged 62, and is buried today at the Antique Temple in Potsdam, unlike her husband, of course, whose remains are still at Huis Doorn today. The 2nd Cuirassier Regiment, of which the Empress was closely associated, famously made 8 charges in one day on the 12th of August 1914 in an engagement that came to be called the Battle of the Silver Helmets. The regiment was one of only 4 German units allowed to wear a silver Pickelhaube. The name on the helmet badge commemorates the Battle of Hohenfriedberg in June 1745, one of Frederick the Great's famous victories during the War of Austrian Succession. This particular helmet was worn by the Kaiser, along with the accompanying uniform, every 22nd of October, his Empress's birthday, to remember that she was royal colonel of the regiment. The Kaiser also ordered her bedroom to be perfectly preserved after her death in this room in 1921. Our next helmet has the distinctive shape of the Ulans, the German lancers. It is an officer's helmet of the 13th King's Ulan Regiment, 1st Hanoverians, a unit originally called the 20th Ulans King Wilhelm I, and was founded in the 18th century. When Wilhelm II was appointed regimental chief in 1889, the title of the unit was changed. The regiment's most illustrious battle honour, Waterloo, from the 1815 victory over Emperor Napoleon, is prominently displayed on the helmet plate, along with other battle honours. This Prussian shako is for an officer in the Guards machine gun battalion, and is kept in its original tin box. The silver Prussian Guards badge with enamelled eagle is on the front, the shako's leather body covered in grey fabric with a golden chin strap. This cap isn't German, but Austrian. The Kaiser was appointed Royal Colonel of the 25th Austro-Hungarian Field Howitzer Regiment, and the cap and uniform in the rank of a General of Austrian Artillery were presented to the Kaiser as gifts in 1917 by the last Austrian Emperor, Kuil. His throne also swept away along with the Kaiser's following World War I. This design of cap is an Austro-Hungarian M1915 field cap for officers. This object isn't a helmet, but it was part of one of the most famous German helmets, the metal helmets of the Garde du Corps. The famous Garde du Corps was Prussia's Life Guards regiment that provided the personal escort to the kings of Prussia from 1770 until 1871, and from 1871 until 1918 the Emperors of Germany. It was founded by Frederick the Great. This detachable German eagle was screwed onto the top of the helmet in lieu of a spike during parades. Though the eagle remains at Huis Doorn, the Kaiser's Garde du Corps helmet is currently with the Kaiser's family in Germany. An iconic World War I German cap is the Kaiser's M1915 Prussian infantry officer's example in pristine condition. He often wore such headgear for less formal engagements in place of the heavier Pickelhauben. As well as being a field marshal in the army, Wilhelm II was also a Grand Admiral in the Imperial German Navy, and this cap is particularly apt seeing that a naval arms race developed between Britain and Germany in the decade before World War I, many of those battleships eventually clashing inconclusively at the Battle of Jutland in 1916. Ironically, it was German sailors of the Imperial Navy that mutinied and precipitated the events that led to the Kaiser's abdication in 1918. This Prussian Guards officer's Pickelhaube is covered in a special protective covering originally designed early in the war to camouflage the metalwork during trench fighting, before the introduction of the steel helmet in 1916. The sun would obviously glint off the many metal fittings and shiny black leather of a Pickelhaube, attracting enemy fire. This Pickelhaube was worn by the Kaiser during visits close to the front, though of course he was never placed in actual danger, and is adorned with a pair of winter goggles for use when travelling in an open car. The Kaiser made a visit to the Middle East in 1898, visiting the Ottoman Empire's Istanbul, or Constantinople as it was called at the time, and then on to Haifa, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Beirut, and on to Damascus. Islam made a strong impression on the Kaiser, and he spoke favourably of it for the rest of his life. This solar topi, or pith helmet, was one of several he used during his trip to the Levant. During World War I, Ottoman Turkey would be an ally of Germany and Austria-Hungary, and among the headgear at Huis Doorn is this Turkish sun helmet, a type of helmet called a kabalak. The Kaiser wore this helmet, along with the uniform of an Ottoman army field marshal, during a tour of Constantinople and the battlefields of Gallipoli in August 1917. I started with a Pickelhaube, and I'll end this tour with a Pickelhaube. This one, of course, is slightly different. You may notice that it has a ball instead of a spike, indicating artillery rather than infantry. And this general's helmet belonged to the Kaiser as regimental colonel of the 1st Battery of the 1st Guards Field Artillery Regiment of the Prussian Artillery. Again we see the Guards' silver and enamel badge on the front, with a brass ball in place of an infantry spike atop the helmet. What I've shown you is only a small selection of the helmets and headgear that are out Huis Doorn, and you can see from these images that there are many other helmets and hats stored at the house. Tune in next time when we will have a look at the Kaiser's many uniforms which remain at the Huis Doorn today, an extraordinary collection covering the entire history of the Kaiser, from boy to old man. In closing, I hope that this video will encourage the Dutch authorities who own Huis Doorn to make more of these military objects available to the public, as they are excellent educational tools that, if displayed in context, help us to understand the Kaiser, his self-image, and his relationship with his military, and the militarism that led to the tragedy of World War I. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.